Is up, y'all? Another, week 6 now of fantasy football advice. It's crazy. Already at week 6. It seems like it's flying by. It's the only thing that I hate about this football season, keeping on. But, that's just how it is. We still got, what now is it, like 13 weeks of football, including week 6. Before the playoffs, and then another like 5-6 weeks of football if you include the Pro Bowl, all that stuff. But let's get to some comments already. Dizzle was in here early. He was finally first. Pretty weird there. Usually he's not. But he says, do I ride it out with Ertz in PPR or pivot to Njoku, Waller, or the Jets tight end in Mason Taylor? Mason, I'm going to say Mason Taylor. But if this is in the Gold League, I say you just simmer down there, okay? Because Mason Taylor's mine, all right? But Mason Taylor is getting a lot of looks. This past week, he had 12 targets on 9 receptions, 67 yards. So he scored 17.7 points without a touchdown. He's the only tight end right now that I would actually look at that is not scoring touchdowns. But if you are going to look for somebody that is scoring touchdowns, obviously Waller is your guy. Let me pull up his. I know he got 2 touchdowns, I think, this past week. I could be wrong. That could be AJ Barner, who I'm also going to talk about in the tight end room. So last week, Darren Waller got 2 touchdowns, only 3 targets, 27 yards, so not that great in PPR, I guess, if you take out the touchdowns, but 17.7 there. 18.8 this past week on 5 targets, 5 receptions, 78 yards, which is a whole lot more, and 1 touchdown. So Darren Waller is definitely getting better. But also I want to talk about AJ Barner from the Seahawks. And yes, this could be a take, in my opinion, that is biased. You guys let me know down in the comments. But 80% of snaps, so he's pretty much always on the field. 7 targets, 7 receptions. So in every single game, he is almost 100% on catching every reception except for week 1 and week 2 when he only got 1 reception and 2 receptions. So kind of an outlier there. But last week, he scored 12.2 points with a touchdown, 3 receptions, 32 yards. This week, 7 receptions for 53 yards and 2 touchdowns, scoring 24.3 points for the tight end position, which is pretty insane. So in a game that Jackson Smith-Njigba did amazing, he did not really score touchdowns, and he's not really a touchdown guy unless he goes for a huge run. AJ Barner is the guy that we use in the red zone besides our running backs. So go ahead and keep that in mind if you guys are looking for a tight end, especially in a deep league. AJ Barner might be available as he's only rostered in 4% of leagues. So keep that in fact. But let's move on here. He says, got $35 on Haskins at running back. Arrested my fab. Doubt I get him. Haskins. Is that the new guy? I haven't heard anything about Haskins. So maybe that's my fault. But Haskins, see how he did. You're talking about Hassan Haskins? You're going to spend $35 of fab on him? That's crazy. He only had 5 running attempts, 13 yards, 1 reception on 1 target for 2 yards. I don't know if I would spend my money on him. He says $40, not $35. That's pretty crazy. But he says, who are you talking to, Kate Dizzle? And this is me responding. He says 7:51. Obviously, Dizzle does not know how to tell time. But for those of you out there who are watching, go ahead and put down a comment below on any trade questions, who you need to pick up. If you have a bunch of injuries, which are totally a huge amount of injuries at this point in time, let me know down in the comments. I will be talking about some quarterbacks, some running backs, and wide receivers, tight ends, defenses, even kickers today. Because for some of us, if you have Schrader, he is injured and put on IR now. And there could be, a couple guys coming back. I believe Tyler Bass is coming back from injury for the Bills. So if you have Prater, which has been doing pretty good, top 10 kicker in the league, you might want to either pick up, Tyler Bass again, just to stash him for now. I know it's kind of weird having 2 kickers, but some people do it. So, yeah. But obviously, In my opinion, this is a no-brainer. He might be still available in your league, but the past 2 weeks, Matthew Stafford has been just being dominant. He's the number 6 quarterback at this point in time. Past 2 weeks, 27 points, 25 points. They are literally throwing the ball 40 plus times. Last week was 41 passing attempts. This week was 47 passing attempts. Over 300 yards in each of these games. Obviously, 3 touchdowns in each of these games as well, which is why he's scoring so dang much. So Matthew Stafford, if he's out there, he's rostered in 60% of leagues. But if he's out there for you right now, he is the hottest commodity at quarterback. I believe he is the number 1 quarterback in the past 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Other than that, obviously, there are those guys like Geno Smith who are super up and down, has a good game, has a really horrible game, more horrible than good. A team that looks like a little bit better is in those deep leagues is Bryce Young. He's only rostered in 20% of leagues. I'm assuming a lot of those are 14-man leagues, 12-man leagues, or dynasty leagues, like ourselves who have the 2 quarterbacks. But Bryce Young, yeah, he's only scoring about 10 points. But if you need somebody because of an injury or there's just no quarterbacks out there, Bryce Young is the guy who's getting points because he gets the ball every play. But let's see. Liam, what's up, Liam? How you doing, man? How are you feeling after this week? Tough loss there. He says CD, Mike Evans, Hampton, Hubbard, Benson, Connor, and even Spencer Schrader. Worst luck in fantasy I've ever had. Yeah, well, at least you're going to get a couple of those guys back. Obviously, not all of them are season-ending injuries. Connor's not a season-ending injury, or Connor is a season-ending injury. CD is not. He should be back in a few weeks. Mike Evans, hopefully back in 2 to 3 weeks, depending on his healing there with the hamstring and everything. Hampton, obviously, just got put on IR, so 5 games out, 4 games or so, whatever. Hubbard, he is not on IR, so he could come back this week, could come back next week. Benson, obviously, is on IR, so he could come back in 3 weeks, I believe, is the timetable. Spencer Schrader is on IR, so one of the better kickers in the league right now at this point in time, but he is on IR, so that sucks. Frazil comes back. He says, yo, what up? How's it going, Frazil? But yeah, those are some of the quarterbacks that I think, obviously, if you really wanted to, if Joe Flacco is out there for you, he is the guy to possibly pick up. Yeah, he just got traded to the Cincinnati Bengals. So there you go. And now Dylan Gabriel is the number 1 quarterback, as we know. He is also a guy who didn't do so bad in his first start. 33 attempts, 19 completions, 190 yards. So 10 yards per completion is pretty good. And 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So not doing too bad. But Shadur Sanders is now considered the quarterback 2 because there's nobody else but him to be there. Deshaun Watson is still coming back from injuries, all that stuff. So those guys are obviously in deep leagues. You guys can pick them up if you need to. Last but not least, we always talk about it, but this guy is not doing very well. He's doing even worse than Bryce Young. It's Cam Ward if you really, really need it, but not who you want. He says, I need running back help. I'm screwed. My only running back is Brees and Woody LMAO. Gonna need waivers to save me. So let's get to the running backs then right now for you, man. Obviously, if you are in a deep league like we are, there are not a lot of options. One option I can say is Tyjae Spears, and I say that with a grain of salt because Tyjae Spears is just booty. He played 25% of snaps this past week, coming off of IR. 4 touches, 14 yards, rushing. That is it. So it is bleak for you out there, my guy. But if you are looking for anybody who look at those premier handcuffs, Tyler Algier, you never know when a top running back is going to go down. And Algier actually does get some good usage. He gets touchdowns. So there are 2 weeks where he's been in the double-digit points at 15 and 11.1. They were just in a bye week, so they're well rested, everything like that. Obviously, you just go after the guys that are handcuffs. Ray Davis. You can go after Ray Davis because if there's anything that happens to James Cook, it's going to be Ray Davis and Ty Johnson splitting the carries there. Ray Davis right now gets nothing. So, obviously, it is kind of a head-scratcher. Same thing for Blake Corum. If you want Blake Corum, he has been playing a little bit more, but nothing as of note. But obviously, if Kyron Williams goes down, Blake Corum is the guy to get there. So that's kind of what you have to do. I had picked up Kareem Hunt a few weeks back, so if Kareem Hunt is there, he's probably a hot commodity right now after scoring an 18-point game. But guys in super deep leagues like Kyle Monangai, he's right behind DeAndre Swift, and he's actually getting the most snap share out of anybody that I talked about at 28, 30-ish%, but still really not doing anything with it. So it is very bleak out there, guys, but you guys can always go after handcuffs. You guys can always make trades. Yes, it sucks because you have to kind of deep down, go down into your depths, whether it's the bench, and just get a crappy running back or a backup running back and hope that they play. It's hard. But obviously with what's his name, Hampton going down, I believe that's why everybody's kind of going after Haskins, and that's why Dizzle out here was saying, maybe Haskins is the guy to get the fab with. But this is just a rent. It's kind of like a rent to own type of thing. You'll rent it, you'll own it, and then you'll hate it after, the next nice house comes around. But Liam says, do you like Green Bay defense against Cincy this week, even with Flacco at quarterback now, or should I go Vegas versus the Titans? If you can go the Rams versus the Baltimore Ravens, do that. But they might already be on a roster. If not, I'm not against Green Bay going against Cincy, but if Joe Flacco is the starter, it could be good for them, and it also could be bad. But Jake Browning actually played fairly well towards the second half, so I'm not 100% sure if Joe Flacco is actually going to start. I think this is just a precautionary if Jake Browning goes down because he has been taking some hits when he rushes and when he gets sacked. So maybe they're just being a little bit more, safe, like a safety net behind their second-string quarterback if he gets hurt. So I'm not 100% sure if Joe Flacco is actually going to start. We saw what he did with the Browns. I don't think Cincinnati traded for him based off of his performances. So I think it's just a safety net, and it was cheap. So Frazil says, if you don't mind, I sent a screenshot of running backs who's available for me. I'm going to pick up 2 for sure, probably 3. I own Kyle Monangai. So let me look at the Discord here, see what you got. So Hassan Haskins, Kimani Vidal, Sean Tucker, Tyrone Tracy. I don't know when Tyrone Tracy is going to come back, if it's going to be this week or next week. But if I am to get anybody, it's probably going to be either Hassan Haskins, just because he's going to play these next few weeks and he's just a rental for you. But he could split with Kimani Vidal. He could split with a couple other guys. We don't know who's going to get the primary touches there. Another guy you can go after is Isaiah Davis. He's way down there. I know that. But Isaiah Davis is right behind Breece Hall. And if Breece Hall goes down, he could get the upgrade. So I hope Breece Hall doesn't go down. But I know you have Breece Hall, so it's always good to have his handcuff if you are willing to get 3 running backs. So if anything, if you can get 3 guys, I would go after these 5 for sure. Hassan Haskins, Kimani Vidal, Tyrone Tracy, maybe even Justice Hill. When they are in desperation mode, Justice Hill is the guy that they pass to most often, and then Isaiah Davis. Those are the 5 that I would go after and see who you get. But yeah, other than that, obviously Haskins is the number 1 guy. So if you don't have the first waiver wire pick, you might not get him. So I would go with Kimani Vidal after that for sure. Liam says, true, Rams would be a good pick. Yeah, if Lamar Jackson doesn't play again, we saw what Cooper Rush did this past week. It was absolutely a dumpster fire. So the Ravens fell heavily in my power rankings that I'm going to record after this. So it's pretty funny that Lamar Jackson has that type of weight. And it's because they have Derrick Henry. So it's like insane. Nino Pena says, are we all in on JCM Bill? Are we in on Bill? I like Bill. But I just don't know how well he'll keep it up. Obviously, it's his first game getting 100 yards, I believe, rushing. But you got offered Lamar, Flowers, Rasheed, and JCM for CMC, McBride, and Dak. I think I might take that, to be honest. Obviously, you lose CMC, who's the number one guy in fantasy, I believe, or number 2 guy in fantasy. Might be number 3, I don't know. But if you're getting Lamar Jackson, who I know is injured right now, so you'd have to pick somebody up if he doesn't play this next week. Flowers does well when Lamar Jackson plays. I don't know his last few games, but I know he's been playing very well. So he's a good guy to have, obviously. McBride is getting about 12 to 14 points on average. So obviously, if you have another tight end, that's great. You could also pick up the tight end that I talked about earlier in Mason Taylor, who's playing very well, AJ Barner, Darren Waller. So you can definitely replace McBride pretty easily. Dak Prescott's been playing very well. So getting rid of him and getting Lamar Jackson, who does also very well but might not play this next week or maybe even 2 weeks if we're very unlucky. I think that's a risk. But you also get Rashee Rice. So when he comes back after this week, he's going to be a dog on the Kansas City Chiefs, especially with all these guys going down with injuries most of the time. And then on top of that, you get JCM, Bill. So you take a risk there with Bill maybe being good. But in my opinion, I don't think that trade is that bad. I think the only thing that I would hate to lose is CMC because JCM will not make up for CMC, but Rashee Rice might, in my opinion. It says, with me flexing, what does it say? Elik Imanori, a Umanor or whatever. Sorry, I said Imanori. That's the Seattle Seahawks safety. Pacheco, Harvey, should I just use the number one priority on like Vidal or Taylor and flex them going forward? I would say maybe Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor is a good flex in my opinion. But yeah, honestly, I think that's way better than those guys. Elik obviously has been getting single-digit points really, really bad at this point in time. Pacheco, same thing. Not very, very good. Harvey, even worse. So in my opinion, if you can get Mason Taylor with a number one priority there, do it, man. It's not going to hurt you. Nobody's pretty much after him. I believe he's owned in 21% of leagues. But he has been getting the looks. His past 3 games, 6 targets, 7 targets, 12 targets. So that's already 25 targets just about in the past 3 weeks, which is pretty insane for a rookie tight end. And he's doing a lot with it. So in my opinion, he's worth the look. Frazil says, Kyle Pitts, he's on my waivers. Should I stash him? I believe so. He says you own Mason Taylor. Kyle Pitts looking good in his schedule. I think it's like top 3 easiest tight end schedule. So yeah, if you can stash him for sure, because there might be a day when Mason Taylor just kind of regresses again, and Justin Fields doesn't look at him, especially since they do have some tough roads ahead. Kyle Pitts might be a good guy to stash for sure. But let's get to running backs here. Obviously, we talked about Vidal, Haskins, Tyjae Spears, Algier, all those guys. But there's still some more guys out there. Obviously, you can go after Ollie Gordon. Hasn't really been doing all that much, but he gets playing time. Obviously, he doesn't really do anything with it. But if Achane goes down, you know that he's going to get the work. Obviously, it might go a little bit more heavily towards the passing game, but you still need to run the ball as an NFL team. So right now, it's just going to be going after those guys that are the second stringers or third stringers, and you just – we don't say it on this channel. We don't hope for injuries, but if there's an injury that happens, these next guys are going to step up. And that's where you kind of find these guys in the woodworks. Injuries are a blessing, but they are also a huge curse. So running back is probably the hardest area. I just traded Mike Evans, who's still injured, for Breece Hall, and I think I just fleeced, honestly. But obviously when Evans comes back, he's going to be getting the rock because Gordon is just not doing it. It's only Emeka Egbuka there. So obviously when Evans comes back, he's going to be getting the work as well. But let's see. So this one says, would it be dumb to pick up both Haskins and Vidal? No, not at all. Because you're going to see who's going to be the guy that's going to be the number one guy for the next 4 or 5 weeks. So if one of those guys pops off, just like how Rico Dowdle did, having a 200-yard game on the ground this past week, you will be hitting yourself literally in the head repeatedly because you did not pick up both, and the one that you picked up is not the guy. So I think going after both of them, you might be doing very good there, in my opinion. But if we are going to pick up any guys on the waiver wire for the wide receivers, Hollywood Brown is usually there. We can also go after a guy that was actually being targeted this past week, Malik Washington. Obviously, not a whole bunch of stuff there, and he's not being targeted inside of the red zone because Darren Waller is. Those are guys you can definitely get. I'm actually doing this, Rave. Add Mason Taylor and drop Juwan. Yes, I'm doing that. I am in the Gold League, and the Gold League is pretty tough. But I'm trying to get either Mason Taylor, Darren Waller. I don't think Darren Waller's here on the tight end position, or AJ Barner, which is the Seattle Seahawks tight end. So those are the guys I'm going after. Most likely dropping Juwan there. Kincaid is my tight end 1 right now. Yeah, but it's always good to have a secondary guy out there. You can even, if your league does it and allows it, you can also put these tight ends at the flex if they're doing better than your flex options, stuff like that. Liam says 2-0 Blue Jays are ready. Yankees suck. Yeah. So if they can clean sweep them, that'd be cool. But hey, we're just looking for a new team to win the chip there, right? Maybe it'll be the Seattle Mariners. We'll see. Could be the Blue Jays though. Let's see. My fave wide receiver stash is Christian Watson. Oh yeah, that's true. When he comes back, he might be a guy that they look at a lot. But he's also made of glass, so he could just get hurt right off the bat. You know what I mean? But I don't think that's bad for sure. Obviously, if he gives you a few games, you're happy with it. But a guy that's coming out of the woodworks again is Troy Franklin. He's been getting almost close to 10 points these past few games, so definitely go ahead and pick those guys up too if you really, really need it. But obviously, wide receivers, there's plenty of them. Mostly all y'all are after either running backs, tight ends, or kickers. We'll talk about kickers in a little bit. Rave says pick 2: Marvin Harrison Jr., ETN, Pollard, Ridley. The first 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. and ETN. Pollard right now, averaging about 10 points is great. He's pretty consistent with it, but I just don't like it. There's also some inklings there saying that what's his name? Forgot his name. Tyjae Spears is going to take away some work from Pollard. I don't believe it. They've said that the past few years, and Tyjae Spears always just ends up getting hurt again. Maybe this year's different. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm still rolling with Pollard as the number 1 back there. But Ridley, Ridley, I think, is just a guy that I will never believe in, even if he actually does well. Let me see what he did this past game. 18 points. That's great and all, in my opinion, but look at the stats before that. Do you trust this guy next week to go out there and give you another 18? I really don't, to be honest. And that was kind of like an outlier game, what they did to the Cardinals. I don't know what was happening there, but they just came back and kind of got the dub. Rave says Rip Hampton, Jacobs, and Kyron will have to do for now. So Jacobs and Kyron is not bad. Kyron can go off at any point in time, so can Jacobs. So those are not 2 guys to have behind Hampton until he comes back in 4 or 5 weeks. Frizil says, would Luther Burden be better than Christian Watson? Luther is kind of like a shot in the dark as well. Obviously, there's some games where he goes off like he did, 3 weeks ago. He got 19 points, three catches for 101 yards. It's pretty awesome and a touchdown. But then he goes back to his regular self, getting 1 point or less. So Luther Burden, you can stash him. But right now, the Bears just have so many options. And DJ Moore, Rome Dunze. Obviously, they have Colson Loveland, Cole Kmet. And they also look at their running backs as well, including Caleb Williams, who likes to run the ball. So it's pretty hard for Luther Burden to get the ball. He's just not targeted that much. In his 5 weeks, including a bye week, so 4 weeks, he's only gotten about 8 targets this entire time. And he's caught, 5, 6, 7 of them. So he's 7 for 8 basically. But he only has about 100 flat yards, and they were all in that third game. Because after that, he has -3 yards, 5 yards in game 2, and then this last game, -4 yards. So not very good stats in my opinion, so I would not pick up Luther Burden over Christian Watson. I do think Christian Watson will get better yardage and better usage than that. Would Tyrone Tracy be the running back 1 when he comes back? I don't know. I think Scatterboo's done enough to split carries at the very least. I know when Tracy was there, he was going about 65, 20, or 35 with Scatterbo and him, and Tyrone Tracy was the 65%. But now I think it's going to be more of like a 60-40, maybe in Scatterboo's wheelhouse. But it could just go 50-50. I don't know. Or it could just go heavily towards Scatterboo, like 70-30. And Tyrone Tracy on the back burner now that they found their new aura guy. So I don't know. I don't think Tyrone Tracy will return to form and take over that backfield. I'd be pretty shocked if they want to change anything up with the way that they've been playing, just a little bit better. Defense, any defense on the waiver you would pick up to stream. If the Rams are there, I like the Rams. Let me go ahead and get this up. I'm going to get the matchups going. So give me a second. I got to pull this up. Get this over here. I always like to see the matchups. But LA, because they go against the Baltimore Ravens, I still like the Seattle defense against Jacksonville. I do think that we'll have a rebound game, even though we are injured. That's just a biased one, though. If you want to go to the Jaguars against Seattle, I don't doubt you either. Jacksonville has been insane. I don't think they'll be on the waivers, though. But New England is always an option. I have them stashed because their schedule going forward is all in the green beyond week 6. So New England goes against New Orleans this week. I have them stashed. If they're on your waiver wire, they are another good team to pick up this week. Same thing for the Raiders. They're playing against Tennessee, but they're both 1-4. I don't think this is like a good option in my opinion. It could go either way. But we can also go Green Bay. You know, if Cincinnati keeps playing like how they're playing and turning over the ball, Green Bay could take over that, and it could be just a like hubba stomp type of thing where the Green Bay just kills the Bengals. So that's an option as well. Other than that, I really don't see any other options, in my opinion, that are blaring out there to me. But you said you have New England and Jacksonville. If you can get Jacksonville, I wouldn't mind, but I think New England is the play here, just because if you look at the rest of their schedule, it is all in green. So let me go ahead and pull up again right here, and I'm going to show you. Jacksonville Jaguars, sorry, not the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Patriots. And I'm going to pull it up on screen right now, so give me a second. Right over here. So let's add this. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So if you see here, it doesn't have, the green stuff, but they play New Orleans, they play Tennessee, they play Cleveland. Atlanta is probably the only one that is not green at that point in time, but I'm not 100% sure. But they play Tampa Bay after that, who can give up the ball at times. They play the Jets, Cincinnati, New York Giants, and then they have a bye week. So obviously, out of the next 8 games, they have 6 really good matchups starting this week against New Orleans, Tennessee, and Cleveland back to back to back. So these are definitely a time to keep the New England Patriots on your starting position and not let them go. Obviously, they go against Atlanta and Tampa Bay, which could be tough games, but we've seen New England play very well against tough teams, including Pittsburgh. They got 7 points, including Buffalo, where they got 11 points there. So I definitely think against Atlanta and Tampa Bay, they'll do well. I feel like Tampa Bay is going to be the toughest one. So you can obviously keep them on the bench and get another good defense on these 2 weeks, and then right back at it again against the Jets, Cincinnati, and the Giants. By this time, Joe Burrow will not be back yet, so you still have time to play against Jake Browning or Joe Flacco. And then they have the bye week on 14. After that, I wouldn't mind you dropping them because Buffalo, Baltimore is going to be pretty tough. But then again, New York Giants and Miami. And they've already played Miami, and they got 20 points. So, in my opinion, that's just what I think. You guys can totally think something different, but I think New England is a stash, and I'm going to keep them the rest of the season if I can, as long as they're playing up to par. It says, and would you just drop the Lions D or stash them? So let's look at the Lions defense and what they have. Upcoming, obviously, they are another good defense that has been on a roll lately. So let's go ahead and look at that. Baltimore here, 22 points. Cleveland, 27 points. Cincinnati, 17. They have Kansas City, so this one should be a good game, in my opinion. Kansas City's going to definitely try to stay up with them, but I don't think they'll be able to do it. But these two matchups are pretty tough. So if you were going to stash them, you would stash them until they play Minnesota, Washington, and Philly, which are also pretty tough games. So in my opinion, I do think that they'll be able to keep up since they did with Baltimore. Same with Chicago, who has a pretty good offense. But at this point in time, I just really don't trust it. I wouldn't keep them. I would go after New England, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion there. So, again, you guys can think something different. But New England, to me, is a very stashable defense because they are the number 6 defense ranked right now in fantasy. And they are just about to, break the top 100 in fantasy points. They're at 101. So, pretty good. But again, guys, let me know if you have any other questions there. I am going to go to tight ends here while we wait. But tight ends, there's a plethora of them, guys. Obviously, you have an Njoku, right, who just had an amazing game this past week. Pretty good. 6 receptions, 67 yards, a touchdown. This is his first touchdown of the season, and we know when he starts to get touchdowns, he starts to get going. So this could be the best week right now to go after David Njoku. If you really like him, he is going against Pittsburgh, Miami, and New England in the next 3 weeks, which are decent matchups, but definitely could help you out. The next one, obviously the blaring one, in my opinion, is Mason Taylor. He is getting a lot of receptions. 12 plus 7 in the past 2 games is 19 targets in the past 2 games. And then you add the game before that, 6, it's 25 targets in the past 3 games. Obviously, the past 2 have been the better games at 15 and 17. So obviously, those are guys that you want to go after. The same thing goes with, obviously, A.J. Barner, in my opinion. The past 2 weeks, he's had 10 targets. This past game, 7 alone against Tampa Bay. Obviously, the Seahawks won't be passing the ball as much like that. But this is A.J. Barner's 4th touchdown of the season in 5 games. And in the past 2 games, he's had 3 of them. So he is being targeted in the end zone, especially when they get down there. It's either the running backs that are going to run the ball or they're looking for A.J. Barner somewhere out there because he's quick and elusive. He's a great blocker, so everybody thinks that he's going to stay on the line until he jets out. So A.J. Barner is a guy to look at for sure. Again, you guys can say it's just me hyping up a Seahawks tight end, but this one is one of the better ones, in my opinion. Obviously, there is one more out there, and if he is available, Darren Waller, you want to pick him up. He is also a guy who's getting targeted as a tight end in the red zone quite frequently. His best game this past week, I believe he had 1 touchdown, somewhere around 18 points. I can't remember. It says, if Barkley is out, who's the Eagles running back to? It might as well be Tank Bigsby, to be honest. So let me look at their depth chart here. Obviously, they traded for Tank Bigsby. I don't think they would trade for him and not use him. But they have so many guys, right? So I believe it would be a committee backfield, if anything. But Will Shipley's there. They've had him play a couple of downs here and there, but nothing crazy. So I don't really think he's going to be the guy. Same thing with A.J. Dillon. They have him playing a couple of snaps here and there. He might be the guy because he's actually, when he gets his opportunities to run the ball, he's averaging about 5 to 6 yards per run behind that offensive line. So he's actually doing stuff with his carries. But Tank Bigsby hasn't really been used. I don't know if that's because he's still kind of learning the playbook and still acclimating to the team. But if I'm going to choose anybody, it probably looks like it would be A.J. Dillon. because really he's the only one that's actually doing anything with his snaps, and he's the only one they're kind of giving the ball to when Saquon is not on the field. So right now he's averaging around 15% of the snaps, gets the ball about 1 to 2 times, and gets about 6 yards per carry. So he's doing very good behind that O-line. So he's probably the guy you want to go after if Barkley were to go down. That curse is very prominent. We'll see if it actually comes to take a bite out of Saquon. But yeah, those are going to be the guys for me there at the tight end position. Ooh, AJ says, hello from Skagway. Hope you're enjoying Alaska, my guy. Looks great out there. Love the photos that I'm seeing on your stories. Love the snaps that you send us too. So keep having fun, my guy, and enjoy it. Enjoy the time off. But another guy I'm going to talk about, who I should have been talking about for a little bit. I know. I should have been talking about him. But another tight end, Jake Tongs. So AJ, this one's for you since you just popped in here. But Jake Tongs the past 2 weeks has been averaging about 15 points per game. 14.8 against Jacksonville, had a touchdown. And then against the Rams, had a touchdown as well and got 17 points. This past game, he got targeted a lot. Like, I'm talking about a lot. Like, almost equal to Mason Taylor. 11 targets, 7 receptions, 41 yards. Obviously not a lot of yards per catch, but they are dunking it down to him. And they're letting him just, take the hits, catch the ball, take the hits. And he got another touchdown this past week. So I think he's worthy to look at, in my opinion, because what Seattle just did to Tampa Bay using A.J. Barner at the tight end position is what Jake Tongs can do in this game against Tampa Bay this week. We know that they're not very good at covering tight ends already from a couple of weeks. So this is why Jake Tongs, in my opinion, is why I'm going to talk about him right now, because he's the number 8 tight end at this point in time in the entire fantasy leagues, rankings and everything. But he has a very, very, very good favorable matchup this upcoming week, especially if the guys are injured at the wide receiver position. Obviously, we're waiting to hear news on Ricky Pearsall, but we saw, obviously, guys like Jawan Jennings still out. We saw Kendrick Bourne have a super awesome game. So it just depends on who's healthy. AJ says, thank you, trying to put in waiver wire ads before I lose signal again. No problem. And go ahead and message me too, man, for the Dynasty. I know you're looking for like auto picks to help you out there if you lose signal. But let me know who you would like to replace if someone doesn't end up playing this week at any point in time from now until Thursday or Sunday. So that way, if you need my commissioner powers, I can put them in for you. I just need it, typed. Like, if this happens, I would like this player to be in. If this happens, I would like this player to be in. Stuff like that. So I can go ahead and do that for you, just because, obviously, if you don't have connection, I know you can't really update the roster, and I don't want what happened to you at the Canyon that last time for the championship to happen in week 6 here, because it's a dire time right now with injuries. So let me know, my guy. But yeah, so I'm going to go over kickers. And these are the kickers that I'm looking at because I had, what's his name? Starts with S-H, Schroeder, something like that, for the Indianapolis Colts. He just got obliterated this past week. Tore his ACL, PCL, I think some meniscus damage as well in his kicking leg. He is out for the season. He's on IR. So obviously, if you are looking for some kickers there, the one that really screams out to me at this point in time is Cairo Santos. He's been playing pretty well. They just came off a bye week. They're going to go up against Washington. I think that he could get a lot of points. Pinheiro for San Francisco is out there as well. If you do have guys out there like McLaughlin for some reason because somebody dropped them, I do think he's also a good option to stream. But guys like, I don't know. This one's a little bit tougher because guys are waning up and down and coming into their own here. But Carlos Santos, Pinheiro, obviously I did see that one guy, Borregales from the Patriots. He had a good game this past week. They go against New Orleans. It could be a good week for him this week. But But obviously, you have guys like good old Nick Folk, good old Saint Nick Folk. He's been playing fairly well. He does miss a few kicks there for the Jets every now and then, but he's been pretty spot on this year. So, in my opinion, Nick Folk right now, he's ranked the 11th guy at the kicker position. I think if you really want to get somebody because of injury like that, and McPherson, all them are not doing really well right now, those are guys to kind of look at just to see who's been doing good and who might have some favorable matchups coming up. How about Joey Sly? Joey Sly is not here for me, so let me go ahead and look. I know he's been missing some field goals, but he also gets a lot of opportunities because the Titans just suck on offense. So if you're okay with him missing a few, probably because he has already missed a few, you can go ahead and pick him up. I know he's missed like 4 or 5 field goals already. But being on the Titans and that offense, it could be really good. So if Joey Sly is there, yeah, I'd probably get it. He says, I also own Trader 2 looking for a new kicker. Yeah, I owned him in 3 out of my 4 leagues. So I'm looking for a kicker in every single league. McLaughlin is there in one. Myers from the Seahawks is one guy I'm also going after. And then Nick Folk, I believe I'm going after in one league too. So there are definitely a lot of guys out there for the kicker position because usually people only carry one. So you can definitely find a diamond in the rough, the next guy to be like the top 5 kicker coming into these next few weeks. All right, and last but not least, obviously I've been talking about defenses already a few times here and there, but LA, I do think if they go against Miami this week, they could get the best of them. But same thing for the Rams. They're playing against the Ravens. So I do think they are going to play well, especially if Lamar Jackson doesn't play, because we saw what Cooper Rush did this past week. It looked abysmal. Obviously, if you can find the Jacksonville Jaguars out there, I know they are going to go up against Seattle. Seattle just put up a lot of numbers. But Jacksonville has been scoring insane amount of points lately because they are the number 1 defense at this point in time. So if you can pick them up for anything, I would stash them, keep them. They have not had a week under 15 points, I believe. Yeah. Haven't had a week where they don't score 15 points in the league that we have. In a regular league where, we don't have all those extra additions for like 4th down stops, all that stuff. They might be scoring like above 10 in every single matchup, so not bad. It says, how about Brandon McManus, the kicker? He's all right, but obviously there are times when the Broncos just kind of go for it on 4th down. Or sorry, I forgot McManus is not on the Broncos. He's with the Packers. He's good too. So he's averaging about like 8 points, and he averaged everything the 9, 10, 3, and 10. It's about 7 or 8 points, something like that with the quick math. So he's doing well. He's pretty consistent. So if you want consistency like that, you can definitely get him. But if you want a guy to get you above like 12, 15 points, I think Joey Sly is that guy. But he obviously does miss. Brandon McManus doesn't miss as much. But obviously, if you can get the Jaguars, in my opinion, if you can get New England, like I said before, go ahead and go after them. They have the best rest of schedule for the year, in my opinion, the best matchups and everything like that. Also, don't be afraid. Get the Tennessee Titans this week. They're going against the Las Vegas Raiders. Geno Smith's going to throw some interceptions. I don't care who he plays. He's just going to throw some. They also might lose the ball here and there. They've been having some fumble problems here and there as well. So don't be afraid to get the Titans if you really, really just believe in them. But the Las Vegas Raiders are also there. They're going against the Titans, but Las Vegas also stinks. So, yeah. It says, I own the Packers defense. Should I drop for the Pats? If you can drop anybody else and keep the Packers defense, I wouldn't mind that. I know the Packers defense can be pretty good, especially now with the addition of Micah Parsons. But this past week, week 4, they crapped the bed because obviously we saw the 40 points they gave up. But other than that, they've been playing very well, holding teams under 20 points and scoring pretty good points themselves. They go against Cincinnati, then they go against Arizona, and then they go against Pittsburgh, Carolina. So in my opinion, the next 4 weeks are pretty favorable for their defense. So I would try to keep the Packers as well. And it's a hard decision. But if I am to choose anybody out there right now, it's going to be the Patriots defense. So if you can't keep the Packers, you can go ahead and, drop them for the Patriots. But if you can keep the Packers, F it. Keep them both. You might have the best defense every single week if it works out the way you need it to. But there you go, guys. So those are all the people that I'm going to talk about. Like I said earlier, I do have to record my power rankings video because I didn't do it beforehand, dealing with some other things here. But I do think that all those guys that I talked about are really good stashes at this point in time. Running back position is really tough. So if you need to make some trades, go ahead and join the Discord down below. Comment to us what your roster is, who do you think you should trade for. We'll give you advice on some other guys that you could possibly trade for. But really, it's just trying to find that guy who's actually really wanting to trade. Dizzle has returned. Want to answer my question again? If I can find it, I think it's all the way on the top. Is it this one? Is this one you're talking about? If I'm doing anything, I'm going after Waller and Mason. I forgot his name, but the Jets tight end. So I'm going after those guys, obviously. Ertz is great, but I dropped him a while back because he just wasn't doing it for me for a little bit. So I would go and pivot with any of those three, to be honest. I think they're all better than Ertz at this point in time. But definitely, if I'm ranking them, I'm going with Mason, Jets tight end. Then I'm going Waller because he just doesn't get enough targets, in my opinion. He is getting more, but not enough compared to Mason. And then same thing with AJ Barner. I know you don't want to hear that. I know you don't like Seahawks players, but AJ Barner, give him a look. He's playing very well. But other than that, guys, if you have any other questions, go ahead and join the Discord down below. Or if you're already in there, shoot your questions down and we will answer them as quickly as possible. But thank you for joining, guys. Make sure you hit the like button, leave some more comments down below, stuff like that. Make sure you're keeping up with the NSP content that we are pushing out every single week. And as we always say, after I get to Dizzle's comment here, he says, I got a team with CMC, Bucky, and Hampton, so clearly need a running back. My only other guy is Spears. Who should I move Pickens for or T-Mac for? Obviously, you can move for guys like Breece Hall. You can move for guys like maybe. You don't have to spend so much. Chase Brown. You never know what's going to go on, but I do believe that their schedule coming up is pretty easy. So Chase Brown could make a resurgence. Again, that's a stretch. But obviously, you can go after guys. Let's see. The Bears running back, his name is slipping my mind, Swift. You can go after Swift. He plays fairly well. I don't think you'll get the upper echelon guys like HN, anything like that. You have to spend a lot to get those guys. But if I'm thinking of anybody, you might be able to get somebody like Kyron Williams for Pickens or T-Mac, possibly. I don't think he's doing anything extravagant to where these guys wouldn't want to trade him for. But you might have to dip down because running backs, like you said, Dizzle, are a dime a dozen. He says, I'm not trying to splurge. Yeah, so in my honest opinion, you're going to go after those guys that are just getting enough points. So the guys that are just around 10 to 12 points, which is pretty good for a running back at this point in time in the running back market that we have. So just look for anybody there. In my opinion, I think Chase Brown is a steal rest of the season. So, yeah, so I think Chase Brown. That's who I've been trying to go after in some leagues. I have him in 2 leagues already, and I've just been stashing him and holding him and waiting. If Joe Flacco plays, apparently he throws the ball to his running backs quite frequently. So could be some passing implications there for PBR. But other than that, guys, thank you very much. Like we always say here, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. So what about Kenneth Walker? I think it's going to be hard to trade for Kenneth Walker. But make sure you leave comments down. Join the Discord. Make sure you're keeping up with the videos that we post here. And as we always say, keep on grinding.